Esoteric Encyclopedia of Eternal Knowledge by Vernon Howard. How this book creates self-newness. This book contains a wide variety of guides and inspirations by which you can change your life in an astounding way. Esoteric teachings can uplift anyone just as swiftly as they are permitted to do their good work. They answer questions and banish problems which may have been burdens for many years. This book contains dozens of fascinating stories about men and women who found a new world. Your own mind is the key which unlocks the secrets of life. In order to use your mind with full power, follow these guides. 1. Select any item in the Esoteric Encyclopedia and give its message your full attention and interest for a few days. Since each item is complete in itself, you will receive one astounding message, plus several extra ones. 2. Keep a list of the items which speak to you in a special and personal way. In order to mine more gold from them, review their points regularly. 3. Join or form a study group to discuss and absorb these teachings. There is a great power in a group of earnest men and women who want to know what life is really all about. Just as the eager roots of a tree stretch out to find water, let your thoughts reach out to find, at last, true guidance and healing. Vernon Howard. A. Accept your harmony. The classic song, The Lost Chord, is a summary of man's ceaseless search for something beyond himself. Written by Sir Arthur Sullivan and Adelaide Proctor, the song tells of an organist who played idly upon the organ keys. In a weary mood, he was unaware of what he was playing, until by chance he struck one grand chord of inspiring harmony. That one magnificent chord quieted all sorrow, answered all questions. The organist sought once more to experience that divine combination of notes, but it eluded him. But he remained hopeful that sometime, somewhere, he would find and hear it again. Within every human being are all the needed notes with which to play the grand music of true life. We need only eliminate false notes and invite true ones in order to hear the harmonious music sleeping within us. At this very moment, you can accept your life harmony. Accept it. Accomplishments. A teacher said to his audience, "We have been studying together for 6 months. By this time, our intended accomplishments should be clear. Please give them to me in single sentences." The students responded, "We are seeing that esoteric principles are the very essence of a whole and sane mind. We're passing beyond the limits of our present nature. We intend to change what happens to us by replacing unconscious behaviour with conscious action. We're aware of how we have confined our own minds and so now intend to give them room to roam. We seek to make the inner government supreme. We wish to see quite deeply that chatter about social reform is just an evasion of personal transformation. We are making ourselves willing to take what truth has to offer. Actions towards others. You can sweep aside all arguments and questions concerning your actions towards others with one simple rule. Any action that is truly right for you is truly right for another. And what is truly wrong for you is also harmful to your neighbour. You're not separate from your neighbour except on the physical level. By this rule, it is not only unhelpful to practice man-made moralities towards others, but downright damaging, for they increase the illusion that the artificial world is real. Put it another way, any action of yours that fails to develop your own inner strength is useless to others. If a lighthouse is to help passing ships, its own light must radiate into the fog. When hearing this, a learner asked, "What do you mean by man-made moralities?" "Anything pretending to be good while having cunning self-interest behind it. Examples are all around you." Admission to reality. A person attending a truth lecture for the first time usually feels that everything he hears is against him. That is simply because he still protects the very chains he wishes so desperately to drop. However, he cannot as yet see this contradiction in himself. He's unaware of how he clings to the very source of his misery. For example, when with others he insists upon conforming to the popular opinion of how he should behave. The real man is not present at all. He fights fiercely to retain his stage role because he knows no other way to act before others. The thought of being caught without memorized words and movements is so terrifying, he instantly rejects everything which seems to threaten him. Suppose a person in this predicament possesses one small but definite wish to become real. What will help him? He can run out of places with which to run. At first, this appears even more agonizing than the forged stage role to which he runs constantly, but he finally glimpses something. He sees how abandonment of the costume pays for admission to the real man inside. Affection for royal principles. We have attitudes towards everything. We may be aware of how we think and feel towards members of the family or towards politics, but how rarely do people ask, "What is my attitude towards royal principles?" A story from history will help here. Many years ago, a group of archaeologists were excavating the ruins of the famous and ancient city of Pompeii. Some French soldiers who were quartered in the area were assigned as assistants in the digging. But the work of the soldiers turned out to be unsatisfactory. They were too careless and awkward in handling the delicate objects which were uncovered. They were replaced by more competent workmen. We must not handle the truth carelessly. It deserves our honour and affection. More and more, as understanding expands, do we handle it with gentle care, and in wonder we see that the affection and gentleness have come from a higher place. Agile mind. The absorption of these teachings creates an amazingly agile mind. No longer tied to hardened habits, it leaps like a skilled athlete from one situation to the next, handling all with ease. Having no self-centeredness, such a mind wastes no time and energy wondering how a situation might be hurtful or beneficial. Having no interference from anxious thoughts, it simply acts. When meeting a troubled person, it acts wisely by not falling under the influence of the other person's gloom. When needing a new chair, it simply buys a chair it can afford without regretfully wishing it could afford a better chair. When confronted by a new challenge, it walks right into it and out again unharmed, for it knows that harm comes only by fearing the challenge. Anyone can test all this for himself. He will then see that the great proof and only proof is self-proof. Whoever tastes an apple for himself will never need to ask others about its flavour. Anguish. Mr. and Mrs. E came early in order to ask a question before class began. Mr. E summarised his question. "May we hear more about the nature of mental anguish? How can it be ended?" Anguish is nothing more than a mental movie which the sufferer carelessly permits to run through his mind. Where there is no mental movie, there can be no anguish. Experiment with this. The next time you suffer, make a deliberate attempt to break the horror film in your mind. Even if succeeding for 1 second, you will see that anguish ends when the film ends. The horror has no existence except in the imaginative film. You can aid your own experiment by ceasing to have a hypnotic fascination for the horror film. To summarise, repeatedly break the unreeling mental movie, then see what a different person you become. Another way. Many years ago, a temple of higher knowledge was being built on a hill overlooking the Nile. The man who would become its chief teacher wanted a suitable proverb to be inscribed over the front door. He thought about it many times as the work progressed. The morning finally came when the foreman needed to have the selected proverb, so he asked the teacher for it. "Please come back in an hour," requested the teacher. "I will then have it for you." While thinking about it, the teacher wandered near a skilled workman who was gently correcting the work of a young man. The teacher heard the older man make the encouraging remark, "There is another way." Over the years, as troubled students and visitors entered the temple, their first lesson was inscribed over the door. It read, "There is another way." Answers about progress. I'm not advancing as swiftly as preferred. How can I understand more quickly? You can understand as much as you are willing to understand. If progress is slow, examine your willingness. You say we must not become dependent upon a teacher. How can this be avoided? It is good and necessary to hear an esoteric fact from someone who knows, but go on from there until hearing it from yourself. How can we estimate our actual level of understanding? The true test of a man's spirituality is his ability or inability to remain content when nothing exciting is happening. It would help if I clearly knew my goal. Who am I trying to be? The person everyone wants to be is a person who is not in trouble with himself. You can succeed. Apply these teachings. What is man like? What is the actual nature of society? What am I like? Search for the answers to these questions until you find them. Man is a contradiction. He is like the rope in a surging tug of war between two brawny teams. The strained rope moves first in one direction, then in the opposite direction. It is caught, taut, unable to free itself from slow torture. This is seen clearly in the idea of authority. One part of a man wants to find and worship an authority, someone who tells him what to do, who relieves the need for independent thinking. But another part rebels instinctively against giving his mind over to another human being. Those who apply esoteric teachings to their lives can end the strain of self-contradiction. Approach self-healing. Do not postpone self-healing. Approach it now. When physically hungry, you do not delay your steps towards the dinner table. So why postpone the psychological satisfaction you could have right now? When reaching the spiritual table, dinner is already there, waiting for you. Act with the assurance of this. Then you will see how true it is each time. Even when trembling with apprehension that it might not be there, go ahead anyway. Approach while trembling. Dare to do what timid parts of you do not want to do. After a while, you'll be fearless, bold, and always satisfied. What confirms all this? There is only one confirmation, and it is all you need. You confirm from yourself through a totally different kind of feeling about yourself and your life here on earth. It is a feeling you had not known before, completely unique. You know it is right. Approval from others. Someone commented, "All of us feel trapped by the very social system we have created." Would you like to know why you feel this way? Yes, please. Because you are so tensely concerned with what others think of you. Have you ever noticed this in yourself? That is your trap. You want to appear happy and successful and confident before others. Pull out of the trap. Have no need for such appearances. These are false desires by which you hope to feel secure, but they are the very cause of your insecurity. Make a choice. Which do you want? Approval from others or your own life? Who owns you? A domineering person? Someone you fear may one day leave you? What owns you? Nervous haste? A compulsive desire to win over another person? Own yourself. Arouse yourself. Picture a man who cannot keep a straight course down the pavement because the wind keeps blowing his hat away. That is how fear interferes with right and progressive living. A frightened mind cannot possibly work for the true interests of its owner. Insight into one fundamental fact enables us to get on with our true business. Fear exists because we carelessly permit psychological winds to lead us away. We do not know our own power for self-command. Man rarely inquires, is all this frantic chasing really necessary? It is not necessary. There is one thing you must never tolerate. You must never tolerate the conclusion that your life must remain the way it is now. It need not remain this way at all. Arouse yourself and exclaim, "It is time to explain myself. Let us stand up." Walt Whitman. Arrival of personal goodness. How does authentic personal goodness arrive? Not by performing exterior actions considered good by society, for society prefers appearances over facts, words over realities. Goodness arrives simply by using our minds correctly, which means to never take ideas about goodness for goodness itself. A mind stuffed with ideas about goodness does not create a good man any more than placing sugar in a cup changes the nature of that cup. Look at it. The idea good man is simply an idea, and man is not merely an idea. He is a wholeness, which includes ideas. You do not call a wheel the whole automobile. You do not refer to an arm as the entire body. So the test of goodness is to see whether all of the man is good. What if he preaches goodness but secretly scorns people? What if he feels good when giving a gift but does so in order to appear generous? True goodness belongs to the whole. Any man or woman within that whole is truly good. Artificial happiness. There was once a man who was terribly unhappy, but had trouble admitting it. His pressure drove him to consult a man of real wisdom. Instantly sensing the situation, the wise man asked, "What is the foundation of your happiness?" "I have a fine family," the visitor explained, "plus considerable wealth and a dozen exciting involvements. That is the foundation of my happiness." The wise man nodded. "I have another question." "Yes?" "How happy does your happiness make you?" Happiness, having a human foundation, is artificial. As human conditions change, the so-called happiness sinks with them. True happiness has no dependencies. Also, it seeks nothing. The sun does not seek to be the sun. It just is. Ask the question. Many people hesitate to ask certain questions about life for fear there may not be an answer, or that the answer will be frightening. Have nothing to do with this attitude. Ask the question you fear to ask. An honest question attracts an honest answer. Never mind if the answer seems contrary to what you now believe, for surprise at what you hear is part of your healthy climb. Nancy said during an evening class, "You urge us to ask short and direct questions. I feel timid about asking such a blunt question, but we'll do it anyway." Nancy paused a moment, then asked, "Can I really find the way out?" "Of course you can. The reason you can find the way out is because it actually exists. Man is like a prisoner in a cell who weeps and wails over his unhappy location, but never examines the door of his cell. he fails to realise that the door is really unlocked. Prove your liberty for yourself. Push on the door. You are out. Astonishing Discovery. A prospector climbed a mountain to seek gold. On the way up, he fell down and struck his head. In his dizziness, he imagined he had found hundreds of gold nuggets. So wandering around town, he offered non-existent gold to everyone he met. He was completely unaware of what he was doing. A few days later, he fell down once more, but this blow cleared his head. In shock and dismay, he realised his former folly. How incredible of me to imagine I possessed gold, he told himself. Then an astonishing thing happened. Once realising he did not possess gold, he began to find gold nuggets. Spiritual riches follow awareness of poverty. That is the one and only order of things. Anyone can see the difference between real and imaginary inner riches. He can inquire, do I feel rich when all by myself, or do I constantly need others to reassure me? Attachment and freedom. Said Arthur, a friend of mine was highly enthusiastic about an organisation he had joined which was going to make everyone happier, including myself. For several weeks, he could hardly talk about anything else. He could hardly wait to attend the meetings where everyone excitedly planned the great crusade which would save the world. Then, abruptly, he dropped the whole thing, losing all interest. In my curiosity, I asked him what had happened, but he resented my questions. I would like to know how a man could turn from hot to cold so suddenly. Please explain his behaviour. Why are you so surprised at typical human conduct? Insecure people are forever attaching themselves to this or that group in a frantic attempt to escape the inner terror. But since it is only a stage performance, the curtain must fall. Such people are quite sure they know what they are doing, only to be dipped into doubt by the next person to whom they speak. Then they are off to a new theatre. There is only one solution. Learn what it means to think from your own mind, then think from it. Attention. Several men and women applied for admission to an esoteric school. Asked the teacher, "What do you think I need from you?" Some applicants suggested money and service, while others thought the teacher needed respect and loyalty. "What is deeply needed," explained the teacher, "is your faithful attention. Remember the power of attention. Give persistent attention to a problem in spelling, and you soon correct it. Likewise, attend to arising thoughts and moods. By noticing worry, you can proceed to the next step of realising it has no power over a conscious mind. Alert attention to a negative state enables you to refuse to be taken over by its peculiar and harmful fascination. Incorrect attention is like a man at a football match who watches the referee. Remember the power of attention and remember to use it. Attractive reasons. People who misunderstand ask, why should I study esoteric science? That is like asking, why should I drink water? Everyone should study this superior science because it attracts satisfying rewards. The old ways can only repeat old problems. No task is more fascinating. Self-oneness is our supreme goal. Esoteric science has workable answers. It makes you skilled and efficient. Frustration is no fun. Human relations become successful. Painful decisions will cease to arise. It is the one sure way out of self-bondage. Life is meaningless without it. Its invitation is both gentle and strong. Contentment is better than insecurity. It opens a new world before you. Audience and reaction. Picture a large audience fortunate enough to hear a talk by an awakened man. How will the average audience react when hearing his honest message? It can be analysed. Many will be sincerely confused. There is real hope for them if they refuse to permit conditioned thought to judge what they hear. Their original nature can then explain and clarify. Some will be there as silent arguers. They will use the familiar trick of hoping to feel right by proving the speaker wrong. They suffer from themselves. Others, though disturbed by the message, sense its honesty and rightness. One bar in their self-imprisonment has already melted by their first glimpse of the difference between trueness and falsehood. A large number whose vanity feels threatened by the facts will have a hostile reaction. In most cases, their habitual stage roles of being peaceful people will conceal the hostility. Some, on the edge of a breakthrough, will respond with a mixture of inspiration and doubt. They are in a good position but must nourish the seed of truth with more receptivity. Authentic giving. Esoteric education is drastically different from ordinary schooling in many ways. However, in one way they're similar. The completion of one course qualifies you for the next. The following paragraph contains an example of this. After you have made some progress, you may meet someone who is interested in the esoteric way, but who knows little about it. Remember the doubts and timidities of such a person. He is unsure of his new mental environment, like a stranger in a distant land. You can help him or her by reviewing your own early experiences. Tell him how puzzled you were at first, but how the clouds of doubt steadily faded away. Urge him to read, discuss, experiment in order to see esoteric riches for himself, just as you did. By assisting earnest people, you assist yourself. By this kind of authentic giving, you receive something you never had before. This is one operation of esoteric law. Authentic strength. The French philosopher René Descartes speaks of his first rule while searching for the truth. The first was never to accept anything for true, which I did not clearly know to be such. Epictetus, the ancient Roman philosopher, adds, relying on what? Not on reputation, nor on wealth, nor on the power of the law, but on his own strength, for these are the only things which make men free. From the clear viewpoint of esotericism, authentic strength consists of several inner states, including living from natural essence, absence of artificial personality, thinking for oneself, a fondness for what is right, absence of illusions and superstitions, understanding of one's mind. Available supply. Some of the regions along the Persian Gulf are among the driest on earth. There are no streams and rain seldom falls. Human life would be impossible in some of these areas except for a fortunate occurrence. One day, some swimmers dived deep enough into the sea to make a startling and delightful discovery. Undersea springs poured huge quantities of fresh water upwards towards the surface. The swimmers obtained goatskin bags, dived through the layer of salt water and filled their bags with pure water. The life-giving water became available to all who knew the secret of the undersea springs. A courageous plunge into our inner world will also reveal delightful discoveries. Avoidance of disappointment. Randolph asked, how can I avoid disappointment at not getting what I want? Understand how life really works. That is the one way and the great way to end the pain of not getting everything attractive to your eyes. Think of persons or objects which you once valued, but which you now ignore. That is perfect evidence that their value existed in your state of mind, not in themselves. You may not believe that this applies to your present desires, but it does. Save yourself time and trouble by learning all about the actual workings of life. You mean I can actually change the way I see life? Change the way you see yourself, and you change the way you see life. Change the way you see life, and the life is new. When you are new, so is your life, for they are exactly the same thing. B. Baffling conditions. Take a condition which baffles you. It can be about future plans, despondency, finances, anything at all. You may believe yourself incapable of finding an answer, or may assume there is no solution at all. Drop these beliefs. Ask a question about the puzzling condition, then listen for the answer from your true nature. The self-dialogue might go like this. How can I solve this condition? By understanding it. How can I understand it? By ceasing to fear it. How is that accomplished? By refusing to give it false power over you. Why do I give it false power? Because you do not as yet realize your actual supremacy. Then I need only seek more self-knowledge? Yes, for you are the answer as well as the question. Banish laborious thinking. Mere intellectual consent to rightness is not enough. The intellect is only part of our cosmic nature, and it takes the whole man to be a right man. Wholeness is rightness itself. It is easy to mentally and verbally agree with a statement such as, each man must rescue himself, but few people act as if they believe it. Most men and women want to make their own problems while expecting others to unmake them. Intellectual consent to rightness is like standing at a window to welcome a visitor, but not opening the door to let him in. Only an active welcome counts. When really understanding something, we no longer need to think about it. A competent cook just cooks. We strain at thinking only in the absence of comprehension. A student cook has to search for answers and decisions. Notice this for yourself. The aim of esotericism is to show men and women how to understand with the whole mind, thus freeing them from laborious thinking. Barriers to overcome. Lack of self-dependence holds us back. We cannot be like the man standing outdoors who asked his friend whether it is raining. We must see for ourselves. Discouragement must be given no room. The reason we can succeed is because our unknown strengths are greater than our known weaknesses. To be easily influenced is a barrier. A free mind is neither influenced nor injured by newspaper headlines, a cruel face, abruptly changed plans, a loss, threatening society. Action is blocked by carelessly taking publicly promoted delusions as realities. The truth is what it is, not what millions of people think it is. Words and labels seem to create obstacles, but they are powerless. Withdraw the labels from personal conditions and you are free. So withdraw labels such as unliked and desperate. Basic information. Every man wants to be different from his neighbours. He wants to be richer or more pampered or handsomer or more popular. Yet everything he does to attain these aims makes him commonplace, for his neighbours are doing the very same things. The world is composed of duplicate machines having mechanical beliefs of being individualistic. A man becomes different by doing something his neighbour rarely thinks of doing. He becomes unique by plunging straight into his haunted psychic system with a determination to clear out the ghosts. Are we defeated or disgraced? That should be the very signal for redoubling our efforts to locate the den of defeat and disgrace. They hide only in a wrongly operating mind which still pursues superiority over others and so fears to end up disgracefully inferior. When our terms are the same terms as truth, we meet everything in life on our own terms. We do so without even thinking about superiority or inferiority towards others, for they do not exist in truth. Battleground of opinions. A man once wanted some opinions, so he went to the marketplace where opinions were sold. Opinions were so plentiful, they were also cheap, so he bought and took home hundreds of them. The man then met every day with friends to exchange opinions. They always ended up quarrelling and hurting each other, each man insisting that his opinion was the right one. But strangely, they continued to meet and to quarrel, for they felt an odd pleasure in the fiery exchange of hostility. But one evening, after an angry meeting, this particular man sensed the self-damage in this kind of childish behaviour. So he went to a wise man who said, "Every acquired opinion has an opposite opinion. Men live by these opinions which in their delusion they call facts. Fighting is inevitable. Toss out your opinions. I will then tell you about the single fact, which has no opposite, and which is sometimes called God." Be audacious. Never wait for good things to come your way. That is the anxious method of most people. Notice the nervousness in waiting. Will it really come? How long must I wait? What if it fails to arrive? There is nothing good in all that. To wait for something means we are living within the wrong view of time. In turn, this means we are not living within the completion of the present moment. Happiness does not involve time. There are no clocks in the cosmic sky. You do not ask for enough, not nearly enough. Timidity wins nothing. Ask for more and receive more. Asking truth to solve some petty problem is like asking Michelangelo to paint your front door. Why don't you ask truth to solve all problems by revealing and ending their inner causes? Why settle for less? Be audacious. Begin life anew. Suppose you ask someone, if you could start life all over again today, what would you do differently? He would not stop talking for a week. Yet that man will do the same things today that he did yesterday and never give them a second thought. He dully repeats his blunders because he believes there is no alternative. There is, but he must see what he does not see at present. Chained to time, he does not cite his freedom to start life over again every day, every second. He thinks life is a mechanical clock which measures time. It is not. Real life is a timeless renewal in the present moment. We are within that moment. Commented a student, "We've studied the topic of time over many months, and I see its importance. For example, I see how the wrong use of memory provides the illusion of time, but something else still eludes me. How can we deeply realise the non-existence of time? Stated differently, how can we see that right now is all the time there is? Try to live in some other time than right now." Be home to yourself. Man's unconscious carelessness with his own life is similar to a small boy playing with a toy train. As long as the boy operates the right switches, the train speeds normally round the track. But distracted by the shout of a friend outdoors, the boy rushes out, leaving the train unattended. Returning a few minutes later to find the engine and cars in a wreck, he shouts, "How did that happen?" He is either unable or unwilling to connect himself, his absence and inattention, with the wreck of his valued train. Be present and be attentive. That is what the great avatars of the ages have been trying to teach tearful mankind. Connect what happens to you with the fact that you are not where you should be, in your own mental home. Be aware of society's lures and distractions. See how misfortune occurs because the mind thoughtlessly rushes out to play a new game at the slightest invitation. Stay at home with yourself. Be interested. Have you ever considered the power of simply being interested in something? Do so. When interested in travelling to a holiday area, your interest carries you there. When interested in buying a new car, you're impelled by your interest to obtain one. The interest you have in cosmic exploration is wonderfully healthy and naturally exciting. Give it full permission to grow, which it will do. That is like giving yourself permission to be happy. Baruch Spinoza, the Dutch philosopher, was interested. He developed his practical teachings while living in seclusion in various parts of Holland. Offered a high position at the University of Heidelberg, he declined, preferring private study to public prominence. That is the rare and independent spirit which succeeds. Beneficial subjects. Let a group discussion or personal meditation revolve around these meaningful subjects. Self-adventure is cause for self-cheer. Turn knowledge of truth into living truth. Examine motives carefully. Be absolutely fearless towards everything. Live by the laws of your own nature. Blend casually with change. Be not the slave of admirers. Never assume you already have the answers. Allow yourself to face disturbing facts. Do not remain apart from yourself. Look until you see. Learn the secret of active inaction. Only the individual can build individuality. Self-awakening is true help for others. Your future is as free as you are. Best teacher. A young man desired to find the true way. Applying at an esoteric school, he was accepted. With great hope and enthusiasm, he began his first day of training. At the end of the week, his beautiful dream had faded. He brought his complaint to one of the teachers. I came here for spiritual instruction, he stated, but was put to work cooking dinners and delivering messages. I wish to grow more swiftly, so may I not give full time to private meditation and classroom discussion? The teacher patiently explained to the young man what he had explained over the years to many other young men. Your mind still works in divisions. You wrongly assume it is more spiritual to be in the classroom than the kitchen. You falsely believe more is gained by carrying a book than carrying a message. Do not divide life like that. You are with your own mind every moment, so be in school all the time, regardless of physical surroundings. Your mind is your best teacher. From that day forward, the student advanced swiftly. Betrayal. Earl spoke up in a class in California. Several of us were discussing the topic of betrayal and would like more light. What is called betrayal or treachery can occur only when self-betrayal is also present. By self-betrayal, I mean a careless ignorance of one's own mind. It means one has not exposed certain illusions which make him gullible to others. For instance, a person who gets hurt in his relations with the opposite sex must see several facts. He must see where his intense desire for the other person closes his eyes to the other person's self-serving schemes. So we must attend to our own inner state, commented Earl. In the absence of self-betrayal, no one can betray you. If you know a panther when you see one, do you play around with it? Beyond the whirlpool. Running away from a crisis is not the same as running towards reality. A clear realization of this assists us to perform the magical feat of using troubles to end troubles. A distressed person is like a man in a boat caught in a whirlpool. He rose desperately away from the centre of the whirlpool. When reaching its edge, he obtains a certain relief and sets down his oars to rest, which is his careless mistake. He's still in the whirlpool, so sooner or later its mechanical forces will draw him back into the swirling centre. The crisis will end when he refuses temporary comfort in favour of permanent freedom. This is won by continuing to row until passing over the line dividing the edge of the whirlpool from the free waters beyond. Connect these facts with any kind of crisis, perhaps that of a broken human relationship. Notice how people are more eager to relieve their distress than to wisely examine and end its cause. Make up your mind to row beyond temporary comfort to lasting liberty. Blunt facts. Said a teacher to his class, "Part of your work is to face the forthright facts about human nature. Please supply some blunt facts." The class responded, "The masses of humanity live in mechanical moralities which change overnight at the sight of supposed advantages. If you want to know where you are living from damaging self-images, notice where you are most easily offended. A change in exterior circumstances does not change a man's spiritual level, for a pygmy on a mountaintop is still a pygmy. No one is more unbearably egotistical than a stupid man who has had good fortune. If your relationship with another person is based on his neurosis, that relationship is in trouble. When a foolish man says he wants your advice, he really means he wants to hear the same silly advice he would give you." Body and mind. A teacher of ancient India was watching his students practice archery. As one archer drew his bow and lined up the target, the teacher stepped forward and instructed, "Look at the clouds." After obeying, the student heard a second command, "Gaze at the woods." The student looked towards the nearby forest. Nodding, the teacher finally instructed, "Now look at the target." The students knew what was happening, for their teacher often interrupted daily activities with unexpected lessons. Said the teacher to everyone, "Realise what you should not do. When wishing to hit a target, you do not gaze at clouds and woods. I have just taught your physical body a lesson, for it needs spiritual training as well as the mind and motion. You will now command your body a bit more than before. For example, it will sit more at ease during a lecture. It will not restlessly wish to be out playing games. Along with mind and emotion, it will look in the right direction and so hit the spiritual target." Book of Truth. A good and wise king wished to teach his young son to live and rule righteously. One day he gave the boy a book of spiritual instruction entitled Book of Truth. "This is the most valuable book we possess," said the king. "Come with me to the library, you'll see what I mean." In the library, the king nodded towards the filled shelves. The books are arranged according to their value to mankind. Those on lower shelves speak to us about agriculture, the seas, and other topics for practical living. The higher the book, the greater its value for us. Please notice the topmost shelf, which is at present empty. This high place is reserved for the book you now hold. Please place it up there, while never forgetting where it belongs. You see, said the king with a sad shake of his head, some people who use our national libraries are careless. They place lower-level topics above this supreme book. Always give this guide the lofty position it deserves. Over the following years, the son equalled his father's wisdom by keeping the Book of Truth in its rightful place. Boulders and lessons. Ernest opened the group discussion by saying, "Today at work, I experienced an example of a mistake we make. I was working with another man in clearing some boulders out of a field. The rocks were hidden by tall grass, so we could not drive around without risking a collision. Searching on foot, we found and removed all the boulders from the field, so we believed. We drove only a short distance when the car bumped into a boulder we assumed was not there. Fortunately, there was no damage. Ernest looked at the others. See the lesson? We have been studying it for several weeks. When failing to see a negative trait, we automatically assume it's not part of us. Then, when bumping into the rock of reality, we complain. We must remove the tall grass of our illusions and look at what is there. Peggy commented, "It is strange how a human being will bump and injure himself for years and never ask why it happens. It is because we don't want to admit our part in the collision." Bright explorations. When a honeybee finds a rewarding field of flowers, he hastens back to the hive in great excitement. By performing an enthusiastic dance, he informs his friends of the discovery. Because the flowers are real, his enthusiasm is legitimate. It is legitimate for anyone to be highly enthusiastic over esoteric discoveries. All discoverers are. Associate freely and frequently with esoteric facts, but remember that association is not penetration. Let them sink into your psychic system to perform their healing. Let them succeed in their purpose. This answers all questions about the mind, including, where am I thinking incorrectly? What must I learn? How can I recognize an exciting but self-defeating idea? What is the nature of new thinking? The answers lift the load in a way which no man can imagine. Reflect upon what you know, and you have a comfortable yard in which to rest. Reflect upon what you do not know, and you have a bright world to explore. Build courage. I'm conquered by worried emotions. How can I begin a campaign to regain self-command? See emotions as surges of energy. At their original source within you, these energies are not negative, but pure and powerful. Realization of this fact will gradually channel energies towards self-command. You say we must see what we are really like. This seems like a mysterious task. It is easy to solve. Everything that happens to you in the exterior is telling you about the interior. See your inner world as the author of your outer world. You are like whatever you receive from the outer world, for the inner and the outer are the same. Speaking generally, what do awakened men try to show to stubborn men and women? A man clings to his cherished illusions like a child afraid to let go of his favourite but broken toy. He must be shown it is broken, which will build courage to let go. Build personal efficiency. We must learn to perform everyday tasks with maximum ease and efficiency. This is a part of esoteric schooling. There is a definite relationship between one's level of cosmic insight and one's competence in conducting business or managing a home. Cosmic growth naturally expands our talent in such areas. Take the talent for giving careful and sustained attention to a particular task. A mind that has found itself gives wholehearted attention to an enterprise. Not distracted by psychic imps, it sees everything clearly and settles everything instantly. As an exercise in all-round development, select a small activity and give it your whole and sustained attention. See how long you can stay with it. Watch for and guard against both inner and outer distractions which try to tug you away. If pulled away, return at once. Using daily tasks like this expands psychic powers, which then turn around to give a helping hand in daily tasks. C. Capable command. To illustrate the lesson of the day, a teacher told the following story. The captain of a holiday ship was skillfully directing the voyage when a storm suddenly struck. The ship lurched, knocking the captain against a pole, making him dizzy. In his unclear state of mind, he forgot that he was the captain of the ship. Wandering dazedly along the deck, he asked various passengers for help in directing the cruise. Since the passengers knew nothing of navigation, they either gave him foolish advice or stood there in frightened silence. The story concluded, after a while, the captain regained full use of his mind. Realizing his captaincy, he resumed his capable command. Realize your life captaincy. Carefree days. In a group in London, someone asked about a carefree life. The inquirer concluded, every daily step is taken in trembling caution. We are crushed by carefulness. You don't have to be careful at all. Obviously, we're not talking about carefulness when crossing a busy street. That is instinctive caution which perpetuates the human race. I am speaking of scheming carefulness, which tries to hide pretences. This is a terrible way to spend the day. Hide nothing, protect nothing, and you're as carefree as a sparrow in the sky. This is beauty in action. You don't have to take thought about yourself, for there is no artificial self screaming for protection. You walk in and out of any human situation as you please, having nothing to win or lose. This is because you have won the invisible prize. Categories of knowledge. Knowledge can be divided into two categories. There is everyday knowledge and there is cosmic knowledge. Everyday knowledge consists of facts useful in daily affairs, such as knowledge of mathematics or foreign languages or of the weather. Cosmic knowledge consists of a deep insight into the how and why of the universe as a whole. A person possessing cosmic knowledge knows the cause of and the cure for human sorrow. He also knows how few really want to obtain these rescuing facts. A person can have considerable everyday knowledge while having no cosmic knowledge, though fully believing he is a spiritual authority. All he really possesses is a sack full of man-made ideas about spirituality. Or a person, the rare person, can have considerable cosmic knowledge, plus enough everyday knowledge for handling daily affairs. Learn the difference between the two, and remember, you can obtain cosmic knowledge only from someone who really has it. Cause and effect. Seeing the causes of our effects is essential. Start with the basic rule. Cause and effect occupy the same place. Cause is not in another person's rude behaviour towards you, with the disturbing effect being inside you. Both cause and effect are within the person feeling the disturbance. The individual's response contains both cause and effect. Blaming another for our distress is like blaming the postman for not bringing in any letters. Delivery starts in another place. A conversation with Roger clarifies this. Why am I always doing things I really don't want to do, such as agreeing to participate in social crusades? Because wrong causes drag you there, such as a wish to gain feelings of self-worth. It will never work. It is a bottomless bucket. You don't need to feel self-worth. You need to drop the illusion that you need a feeling of self-worth. Cause of tension. Tension is caused by opposing desires. An individual may desire to get involved with social and community activities. He hopes to gain public prominence, which in turn may offer financial advantages. Or he gains a self-flattering image of being a generous contributor of his intelligence and knowledge. But by psychological law, these desires must be opposed by another set of wishes. Many times when called upon to serve, he would rather stay at home and watch television or go out and play golf. Tension results. He is painfully trapped between opposing desires. He is like a desperate man stranded on a lonely island who thrills at the sight of approaching ships until he sees they're pirates. Only an understanding of vanity-pleasing desire can end this tension. He could start by seeing that he is not really caught between demanding people and his own private wishes. He is trapped only by his own misunderstanding of what he needs for a contented life. Celestial City. A group of unhappy men and women heard about a peaceful place called Celestial City. Wishing to live in it, they consulted a wise man who told them, "Go to the edge of town. There you will see footprints. Follow them all the way to the Celestial City." When locating the footprints, part of the group turned back immediately, complaining, "But they lead straight into the frightening wilderness." The rest of the group followed the footprints for a short distance, but several more stopped when it started to rain. After a few more miles, the group broke up into two quarrelling factions, each demanding the right to lead the expedition. The battle raged so fiercely, they forgot all about the Celestial City and returned home to continue the fight. When observing this, the wise man explained to his disciples, "Because of man's dazed mind, this is what always happens. Still, people must be told about the footprints. Every once in a while, a persevering man or woman follows them all the way to the Celestial City." Challenging sentence. There was a teacher who understood the imperfections of those attending his classes for the first time. Many came with smug and unconscious assumptions of already knowing the truth, while others found false pleasure in arguing and denying. The patient teacher had developed an effective method for helping newcomers pass beyond their wasteful attitudes. It consisted of forcing them to frankly question the very lives they now lived. He did this by writing a single sentence on the blackboard, after which he asked the pupils to ponder it silently for 10 minutes. The sentence read, "This way of life you protect so fiercely and fearfully. Honestly now, what has it given you in return?" Later, some of the students told the teacher how they had responded to the sentence. "It made me think. I needed this jolt. It made me more honest. I saw its valuable lesson." Change. Kenneth requested, "Please discuss change. It is often so unexpected and unwanted it shakes our so-called security. Look at change from a totally new viewpoint. You have no self which is apart from the all, and this all includes change. Therefore, being one with the all, you are also one with change. Now, from that viewpoint, peer deeply into change. Changes take place in our age or in human relations. How does that affect your real nature? In no way. Allness is merely adding variety to the way it expresses itself. Now look even deeper. You cannot be hurt because you yourself are not apart from the change, for you are change itself. And listen to this. Since you are the all, you allow change. You approve it. You are happy with it." Kenneth gasped. "That's enough to think about for a month." Clear vision. Every event presented to you by life is pure in itself. It appears distorted only when personalised thought leaps in to declare, "I like" or "I dislike." In this condition, we do not see the event as it is, but according to our experiences and acquired preferences. Two men can look at the same woman with opposite reactions. One of them, hoping to meet her, sees a charming girl before him. The other man, who has been hurt by her, looks bitterly at a deceitful woman whose surface charm can drop like a brick. Not seeing her impersonally, both men are slaves to their own reactions. The first man is enslaved by impulsive desire, while the other man is chained by resentment. A conscious man sees everything with unclouded vision. This is possible because mental clarity contains no self-reference. The false self is absent, leaving only pure perception. A conscious man is aware of human deceit, but is unharmed by it because his psychic system resides on a higher level than deceit. We can live under events or above them, depending upon our cosmic level. Collapsing world. Take a look at what you call your world. Notice how much strain and effort it takes to keep it in place. Repair the west side and it breaks down on the east. What an endless and futile battle. The next time your world begins to fall apart, stand calmly aside and let it fall as far and as fast as it wishes. Offer no resistance. Fight nothing. Just stand there as a calm and impartial observer. Have no fear in permitting this. There is nothing to fear, not at all. It only appears that way for a while. Ask yourself why you should fight the collapse of what you call your world. There is no reason whatever, no real reason. So let your world collapse swiftly. With a bit of good fortune, it will collapse even more swiftly tomorrow. Then, with complete collapse, out of the ruins will arise a new world. Colourful rivers. Many rivers throughout the world are named after their colours. Among them, we have the Orange River in South Africa and the Yellow River in China. The United States has a Red River, Green River, White River. The Rio Tinto in Spain passes through several colours, including red, purple, green. The colours come from the nature of the terrain through which the rivers pass. The presence of coloured soil in riverbed and shrubbery on riverbank determines the appearance of the flowing waters, or the very absence of particular colours decides their appearance. But surrounding colours are not obstacles. Regardless of appearances, the rivers flow freely through deserts and around mountains to reach their natural destinations. Likewise, personal circumstances do not become obstacles when we permit our original nature to flow freely, as nature intends. Common objection. Said Norman, as a beginner, there are many things I do not understand. Here is one of them. If we give up feelings of excitement over winning worldly successes, won't life become dull? Won't we live as motionless and meaningless vegetables? That is a very common objection made by beginners. Let me ask, Norman, have you reached the other shore as yet? No, sir. Then how can you describe its nature? Why do you call it dull? Can you accurately describe something you have not seen? No. Do not confuse assumptions with facts. You fear the other shore, for it requires you to give up false feelings of life. False feelings of life consist of exciting emotions which seem to tell you who you are, that you are a sufferer, a dynamic businessman, and so on. Strangely, beginners fear the loss of their very misery, for misery seems to confirm their identities. As for dullness and meaninglessness, they do not see that this is the precise condition now punishing them. Competition. Many strange and wonderful events happen along the true path. One of them is the gradual disappearance of a sense of competition. You no longer feel yourself to be in a tense contest which you hope to win but fear you may lose. This relaxation falls upon every area of life, including the way you earn your living and your human relations. What delivers this victory? The ending of the false sense of self, which is always trying frantically to win someone or gain something. This ending is your new beginning. Though participating in human affairs, you no longer need to compete or to win, for you have already won, but in a new way which others will not understand. You will never go back to your old way. Just as a bird watcher follows doves and owls throughout the woods in order to learn all about them, follow these ideas with an intense interest. Consciousness delivers freedom. Everyone is born in this world under certain mechanical laws of life. For example, negative attitudes are mechanical. When one man is cruel to another man, the offended person seeks revenge. Both behave mechanically, and both are punished by their ignorance. This is the present state of humanity. The evidence is all around us. We are set free from mechanical laws by rising above them. Transcendence comes through understanding their nature. Consciousness is not mechanicalness. Therefore, only consciousness and awareness possess liberating insight into mechanical movements. So become highly conscious of the following laws. Your thinking determines your life. Your actual nature creates your future. Your attitudes attract your experiences. Your aims decide your destinations. Let your thinking, your nature, your attitudes and aims be conscious, not mechanical. See how everything changes. Control of life. For a man to win control of his life, he must first lose the illusion of already having control. This requires steadfast self-examination, for everyone has a pocket of resistance which never wants to admit lack of control. A man or woman may even publicly confess to an uncommanded life, but secret vanities persist in their claim of having personal power. We fear that a total admission might make other people think less of us, or that we might think less of ourselves. Our self-examination must reach a point where we're willing to let go of the pretense of having control over particular habits or life in general. We may do it timidly at first, but we finally let go because we now see it as right action and the only action possible. By seeing that we cannot do anything, doing becomes possible. But it is not our personal power, it is cosmic action. Correcting mistakes. There is only one way to correct mistakes, but it works perfectly when understood. All mistakes occur because we live only with the mechanical part of the mind instead of with the whole mind. Take a person who gets into endless trouble by doing and saying the wrong things. This is his way of life. Why? Because the mechanical part of his mind, to which he clings stubbornly, cannot see anything above its own level. He is like a foolish civilian who insists upon wandering around the battlefield, then complains that soldiers are shooting at him. The mechanical-minded man never sees himself as the cause of his punishment, never sees the source of tension within himself. Mistakes are corrected by transcending mechanical thoughts and rising to a full use of the total mind. The whole mind knows a mistake when it sees one and wants nothing to do with it. Correction of misunderstanding. Maxine requested, "Please correct a misunderstanding we may not even know about." No friend or stranger has ever caused you mental or emotional pain. No one has ever hurt you. Then what happens? You hurt yourself through wrong reactions. You feel bad over an insult? What gets insulted? A demand on your part that others should respect you. Why do you have this demand? Because you want so-called respect to confirm your false notions about who you are. Why do you have these illusory notions? Because you still think you possess a separate ego, a distinct identity apart from the whole. Why do you continue in this painful error? Because you do not take time to see the facts. Take time. Cosmic flight. A student of higher thought said to a friend in the class, "I'm becoming increasingly aware of the need to change myself inwardly. I've seen how the inner cause produces the outer effect. It was so surprising at first, but now I realise how each of us makes his life whatever it is. Seeing this, I also see how other people find it difficult to grasp, for I was once in the same mental fog. I have a relative who is always trying to improve his life by making exterior changes, for example, by moving from one city to another. He comes and goes the same bewildered man. But I'm sure you know all about this mistake. All of us make it. Right, replied the friend. If an airplane's motor is faulty, you can't make it fly by giving it a fresh coat of paint. All of us have to really see this fact. Then our very perception becomes a power for cosmic flight. Cosmic laws. A teacher said to an advanced student, "Please give the class a fundamental fact about cosmic laws." Cosmic laws are here to help, not hinder. Whether we call them cosmic laws or psychological principles or spiritual rules, their study returns profit. Here is one for beneficial examination. Each man has the same attitude towards himself that he has towards others. This is absolute cosmic law. It means a person acts with either the same kindness or the same harshness towards himself as he acts towards others. An attitude within a man is never divided. It is a single attitude which either nourishes both himself and the other person or subtracts from both himself and the other man. Play pleasant music for yourself and you play it for everyone else around you. Cosmic sanity. To gain more knowledge for yourself, you must give what you have already received. An airplane pilot can raise himself to a higher altitude only by also raising his passengers. This does not necessarily mean to become a teacher. It means to naturally radiate whatever truth you have acquired. This radiation is as effortless as sun rays. The only gift we have for the world, and the only worthwhile gift, is a portion of cosmic sanity. If we have replaced stubborn self-will with cosmic sanity, it will be sensed and received by all who want the gift. Not all want the gift, but some do. You will know them. They will know you. You have something in common in which there is no sense of competition. You may talk about it, but at other times you will look at each other with silent understanding. Counterfeit confidence. Counterfeit confidence, with its always dependable dips into dejection, is cured by a clear recognition of its artificiality. So put it under a mental microscope. Look closely and see that false confidence always depends upon something in the exterior. It might be a comfortable home life, or many friends, or a promising future. So counterfeit confidence is in fear of losing its seemingly security to unexpected change. So it is not confidence at all, but merely a bulge of thoughts and feelings, like a balloon. The greater its size, the larger its emptiness. Deeper examination reveals the arrogance in counterfeit confidence, which easily turns towards violence. Its negative nature has a compulsive need to expand itself, so it has no conscience towards those who get hurt by its explosions. It is the whole man who has real confidence. As a project, think about this. Get assistance from other sections in this book which discuss self-wholeness. Creative energy. Begin today to use this remarkable procedure. First, become clearly aware of every arising feeling of pressure or discomfort or nervousness. Just notice how they persistently rise up and take over mind and body. Next, become conscious of the great energy possessed by these ruthless invaders, for they do indeed move with great force. With all this in mind, proceed to the next important phase. Think of this energy as being totally pure in its original form. Do not see it as pressure or nervousness which must take you over, but as a force under your own command. This is the way it can be. It is like a raging river tamed by strong banks. Finally, think what can be done with all this power. See how you can help yourself by releasing it towards positive goals, including personal poise and clear judgment. Let yourself be both inspired and renewed. Creative writing. Take paper and pencil and write down a single word, almost any word. Starting with that word, build a single, clear and informative sentence. You might write, "The integrity of my mind is all that matters," or "True courage is the willingness to hear facts which go contrary to my present beliefs." Find other examples throughout this book. Practice this from time to time. It expands creative thinking. It builds logic and insight. Here are several good words for starting the sentences: progress, awareness, learn, remember, people, knowledge. Cure of suffering. Anyone can save himself years of heartache by studying and applying the following facts. Suffering is caused by unnecessary separation from our original nature, a fearful wish to escape sorrow instead of facing and understanding it, blaming other people and circumstances for our unhappy state, lack of guiding knowledge about anguish, refusal of self-reliance and self-responsibility, living in imaginary happiness, following false prophets and useless teachings, clinging to the habitual instead of to the true, a general wrong use of the mind. Suffering is cured by examining the nature of suffering with a scientific mind, refusing false comfort from people who use your heartache for their own benefits, floating on the fact that you can be your own doctor, not resenting or fighting a sorrowful condition, abandoning secret pleasure in feeling troubled and persecuted, using your whole and unified mind, getting so weary of suffering you resolve to no longer go along with it, understanding the general cosmic laws of life. D. Daily guides. Observe the kind of advice you are giving yourself, then decide whether you like the results of that advice. Anyone wishing to make it on his own must first discover what is really his own and what is not. There are great possibilities for anyone who asks after getting his feelings hurt, "Why am I such a slave to others?" Something exciting is happening inwardly when you no longer look forward to something exciting. Fear of ridicule can be overcome by always being who you really are. You can use your thoughts correctly, or you can let them use you incorrectly. Make it your aim to no longer let artificial personality speak and act in your name. An inability to understand an esoteric fact contains a favourable element, for it means that at last we are trying to open the right door. Daily practice. Once a fact has been mentally absorbed, find ways to practice it in daily contacts. When fact meets experience, understanding explodes. Raymond had the following fact in his mind: the very same pressure a man puts on another, knowingly or unconsciously, is the very same pressure with which he squeezes himself. Raymond agreed that this was psychic law, but it was not yet as liberating understanding. One day Raymond was about to put pressure on a store clerk whose carelessness had caused considerable inconvenience. Observing himself, Raymond saw how he was agitated by the very pressure he was about to apply. Instantly, he dropped the impulse, and at that moment he understood the path to freedom. Go and do likewise. Daydreams. Take something which is difficult to accept or understand, then make an effort to see what it means. That, really, is what turns on the light. Take daydreams. Daydreaming may be the easy way out, but they make the return trip an unnecessary ordeal. We are better off staying at home in the first place. Daydreaming fails to take total life into consideration, thus creating division. It is like believing that Mona Lisa's smile is the whole picture. A man imagines himself as a great lover or a dashing adventurer. That is his daydream. Success as a lover or adventurer cannot quiet his fear of the unknown future. That is his division and conflict. A mind operating wholly has no need to daydream. It has no need to go anywhere in a frantic attempt to find itself. It already has. Dazed mankind. A news story told of a motorist whose car ran off a cliff and tumbled into a canyon. Not seriously injured, he stumbled away from the car to seek help, but his dizzy mind sent him in the wrong direction, away from the highway. His battered car was finally sighted by passing motorists who called the police. The dazed man, who believed he was heading towards help, was found wandering in some wooded hills 2 miles from the highway. Man's dazed mind functions wrongly. Correction could come swiftly were it not for a particularly faulty part. He is unaware of his actual condition. He takes darkness for light, chooses the artificial over the real. So, like the motorist, he is in an incredible position. There is nothing more incredible than a person being uninvolved with his own rescue while believing he is helping himself. That is the startling condition of those who wander in the wrong direction, those who mistake society's sly propaganda for authentic guidance. Those wishing self-rescue must get involved with something higher than society's confusion. Delightful progress. We must remind ourselves every day of the delight of what we are doing in this cosmic world. This is no sorrowful way. This is the way out of sorrow. Even when our aims seem out of reach, it is no reason for dismay. Our very pressures can be turned into delightful progress, just as storming steam drives a ship. Emotional agitation makes us forget the true way. Let every agitation be the very signal for remembering the true way. Someone hurts or disappoints us, let us immediately cut loose from the false power of hurt and disappointment. You can rescue yourself. You have everything you need for succeeding. This is a fact, regardless of how heavily the world seems to press down upon you. Here is one way to proceed. When upset by anything, not knowing which way to turn, ask yourself, how can I think towards this condition with my own original mind? That is a highly intelligent question. It leads to the answer you need. Deliverance from loneliness. Everything wandering man needs to possess can be given to him simply and directly. There is no problem of supply. What every individual needs is instantly available. Then what is the difficulty? It can be stated plainly. It is the individual's refusal to listen. He anxiously refuses to acknowledge the existence of anything above his present thoughts and acts. In this book, we are learning to listen. That is enough. What we permit ourselves to hear will do the rest. Anyone can permit himself to hear at this very moment the message which delivers him from loneliness. First of all, we must see where loneliness exists, the only place it exists. Loneliness resides in that part of a man's mind which wrongly declares that he possesses a self which is apart from the universal whole. He does not in fact possess such a separate self. He is within the harmony of the universal whole. This is not starry philosophy. This is practical fact. Reflect upon it. Connect it with everything else you have learned. Watch what happens to feelings of loneliness. Develop self-dependence. Give yourself a small task every day to make your mind work better in common experiences. To climb mountains, first reach hilltops. A good start is the development of self-dependence. Many areas of life require assistance, as when determining the quality of a new car, but declining assistance in other areas builds self-reliance. Take an occasion when you cannot locate an article lost around the home. Do not take the easy way out. Resist the impulse to call for help from wife or husband. Force your mind to rely upon itself only. Make yourself think of additional places where the article might be hidden. Simple exercises like this quickly awaken sleeping resources, which soon invade and conquer new worlds. Dialogue. The following dialogue took place as Carl read out his 3 questions in class. Why do most human beings fail to hear the facts of life? Because you can rarely talk to the human being. You talk to the successful businessman or the busy mother or some other unconscious self-label. The label has no interest in hearing anything outside of itself. The idea of spiritual rewards puzzles me. I know they are totally different from worldly benefits, but I need an explanation. What is a spiritual reward? The reward of not being self-divided is to not be self-divided. You speak of the need to catch our first glimpse of another way. How can we catch this first glimpse? Think deeply about the absence of ego competition. Think what it means to not be in ego competition with other people. That can lead to a first glimpse of another way. Diamonds every day. To be engaged in self-discovery is the one activity which makes life truly fascinating. It is like finding diamonds every day. Whatever excitement we get today from false goals must be paid for tomorrow. But to increasingly discover the extent of our natural freedom is to receive endless payment. Self-liberation is a full-time business. You can practice it at any time you like, at home or office. No time on earth is better spent. Be wholeheartedly receptive to the following fact. The first principle of profitable self-work is a persistent and honest and non-judgmental observation of everything you think and say and do. If in the dim light you cannot make out a mountain trail you are hiking along, your one wish is for more light. More light. That is what self-exploration is all about. Different psychologies. Esoteric psychology is to ordinary psychology like the Mississippi River is to a shallow country stream. Ordinary psychology teaches adjustment and compromise instead of self-exploration, change of scenery instead of change of nature. For one thing, esotericism is not deceived by the well-rehearsed stage performances in which people try to appear wise and understanding. It knows all about human masks. Here is an example of its perfect insight. When, on very rare occasions, 2 awakened men meet, they instantly and fully understand each other. When, less rarely, an awakened man meets a hypnotized man, something else happens. The awakened man understands the hypnotized person, but the hypnotized man has no insight into the enlightened individual. When 2 hypnotized men meet, which happens millions of times a day, neither understands the other, and so they fight and suffer. Discover new talents. A class of beginners said to their teacher, "It has been said that man employs but a fraction of his natural talents. How can we find and use them for loftier living?" The teacher placed a covered object on the table, then instructed a student, "Feel the object under this cloth and tell us about it." After following instructions, the student responded, "It feels like a bell." Removing the cover, the teacher said, "It is indeed a bell. Look at it and give us more details." "It is about 8 inches high and made of brass. Ring the bell and tell us more about it." After shaking the bell, the student said, "Its tone is clear and musical." The teacher nodded. Each time you examined the bell with a new sense, you discovered another characteristic. You did not limit your understanding by limiting your use of natural powers. So it is with man. He possesses many more cosmic talents than he ever employs. Only by suspecting their existence within himself can he begin to use them for self-elevation. Dissatisfaction. It is necessary to be dissatisfied with one's life if one is to change it. The self-complacent man, drugged with worldly success or with private daydreams, can never be different. His artificial satisfaction is surrounded by fear of loss, causing tension and irritability. So we must be dissatisfied. That comes first. Then comes a crucial point. Everything depends upon what we do with this dissatisfaction. We can go wrong or we can go up. Great watchfulness is needed to turn dissatisfaction into elevation. It is a wrong move to bitterly blame others for our woes or to escape into dangerous distractions such as alcohol or agitating activities. It is wrong to assume that our usual ways of thinking have creative power, for ordinary thought changes nothing. The right move is to sit quietly and do absolutely nothing about your dissatisfaction. Do not fight it. Remain with a quiet mind and spirit. Distortion of truth. Beginners on the esoteric path always make the same objections and ask the same questions. Here is a typical dialogue. Esotericism says we must look within and attend to our own state of mental health, but this seems selfish and unloving. The great teachers such as Christ and Buddha taught that we must never think of ourselves, but must lose our lives in loving service to others. They taught nothing of the sort. That is a cunning distortion of truth by the false self which wants to keep people enslaved. Christ and Buddha, who were truly enlightened, taught honest self-facing, not tricky self-evasion. You change what you are only by first seeing what you actually are. You go beyond yourself only through self-knowledge, which requires courageous self-facing. You can give pure water to another human being only if you first possess pure water. Disturbance. There is an interesting difference in reactions when hearing false doctrines and when hearing esoteric facts. People are thrilled by a false teaching because, in one subtle way or another, it appeals to vanity. Deception has power only with the cooperation of unawakened people. But the hearer must now become the victim of depression, for the incoming tide must also flow out. But the hearing of a true teaching awakens an entirely different response. To the hearer's surprise and dismay, he feels not inspiration, but disturbance. This is because noble truth is performing its honest task of exposing illusions masquerading as realities. But this disturbance is the seed of inspiration, an inspiration which will never flow away. With this in mind, welcome any disturbance you feel when told the truth. Do not be afraid of being disturbed. Just remain with that state. Disturbance is the doorway through which you walk beyond all disturbance. Do not be afraid. A teacher entered the classroom to declare, "Whatever is unnatural is unnecessary. Fear is unnatural and therefore unnecessary. The teacher uncovered a blackboard to reveal the day's lesson, then instructed, "Review this list in silence for the next 10 minutes, after which we will discuss it." The students studied the list, which read, "Do not be afraid to have no idea of who you are, of past or future, to seek truth all by yourself, of having no excitement in your day, to be completely wrong, of not getting attention, to refuse to compromise with error, of your negative characteristics, to keep going after a fall, of what people think of you." Double deception. Two students were discussing their search for a teacher. Said one, "For years I sought someone who could help me. I met and left the self-deceived, the greedy, the dynamic parrots, those with a compulsion to teach, and many more false guides. But I finally found a man who lived the integrity he taught. But what about you?" "I had an equally difficult time," said the other man. "I roamed from teacher to teacher, despairing of ever finding the right one. But I finally did. Then I spoke right up and told him he was the finest teacher I had ever met." "When did you tell him that?" "Right after he told me I was the finest pupil he had ever met." Doubt and certainty. Self-doubt is one of the concealed pains endured by men and women. Like all mysteries, it can be solved through diligent investigation. Self-knowledge replaces self-doubt with self-certainty. "Just how does doubt disappear?" asked one inquirer. "At the start of our search, we must think about these lessons, but must then proceed to the higher level of feeling them with our whole nature. Feeling provides recognition and certainty. A story illustrates this. A tailor of ancient Persia was also a teacher of esoteric lessons. Since his disciples lived in different cities and were often unknown to each other, he devised a method of recognition in case they should meet. He gave each disciple a coat made of special material. Those owning a coat would know how it felt, so a quick touch provided instant recognition. When you learn to feel the truth, there is no doubt about it. Dwell in liberty. A man once lived in a country having many strict and oppressive laws. Along with the other citizens, he was compelled to live in an unpleasant environment and was forced to work at dreary tasks. His mind was heavy with sorrow. However, with intelligent planning, he succeeded in escaping to a new country. But strangely, his unhappiness remained, for he thought, "I am still a slave to cruel laws. I will be just as dejected as before." But everything suddenly brightened, for he was soon told, "Banish your belief in oppressive laws, for here there are none. This is indeed a new country. In this land of true liberty, you are free to live as you wish. There are no laws which compel anyone to be defeated and discouraged. A new nature dwells in liberty, so return to this nature and experience this liberty." Ease and accuracy. A deep-sea diver once explored an ancient Spanish ship which had sunk off the coast of Florida. He brought up a strangely shaped object covered thickly with the coral of centuries. When the coral was removed, the object revealed itself to be a sundial. When set outside, the sundial perfectly resumed its work of telling the time. That illustrates our task. By removing everything foreign and useless to our true nature, we perform as easily and as accurately as we were intended to perform. We can clean away the useless notion that life is against us, for the person who is one with himself is also one with everything else. By seeing this, we can then banish feelings of being at the mercy of people and events, for our real nature has no such feelings. Economy. Built within everyone is a natural desire for economy. We do not like to waste anything, whether it is food or time or energy. The greater one's psychological health, the more this natural inclination is followed. A healthy man knows that his economy is not selfishness. Wastefulness indicates failure to perceive what is truly valuable, like a hungry man who throws away the bread and tries to eat its wrapper. Great benefits appear through living fully within this inborn sense of economy. One of them is the recovery of ourselves from those who drain us. Have you ever felt drained by talkative people? Ponder it. Sometimes we even feel it as kindly or necessary to place ourselves at the disposal of others. No, this violates the rule. Save yourself before trying to save others. Your wish for economy is trying to tell you something. Listen. Effective reading. Use these 7 guides to profitable reading. Read with an enthusiastic wish to discover what you and your life are all about. Do not be discouraged if you do not understand various ideas at first. You will be helped by your deeper nature, which does understand. Read regularly. Use spare moments at office or at home to absorb a few principles. Allow the truth to tell its own story. Do not permit stubborn thoughts to distort the story. Read with a quiet, relaxed, yet alert mind. Write down ideas which impress you in particular. Review and reflect upon these inspiring thoughts. Remember, your purpose in reading an esoteric book is to enable you to read yourself. Effortless action. When really seeing something, when actually understanding, your behaviour changes towards whatever you see. It is effortless change, requiring no uncertain decision on your part. The appearance of reality is itself the change, with you in oneness with it. It is like a boat floating downstream, either left or right in unison with the natural course of the river. You've had times when you did not know how to proceed, as when considering a change of employment. Every tug in one direction was countered by a tug in the opposite direction. The solution is to see that your real nature can never be elated or depressed by either course taken, for it is superior to all results in human affairs. In that supreme perception, your everyday judgment is released to handle either course with perfect command. Emperor of the Universe. Offer to make an awakened man the Emperor of the Universe, and he will smile gently at the offer. He is already the Emperor of the Universe by not being separated from it by delusions. He does not know himself apart from the universe any more than a particular cloud sees itself apart from the sky. There is a great opportunity for the individual who willingly relinquishes the kind of individuality he now claims. The entire secret of true happiness is to cease to defend yourself to the point where there is no longer anyone there to defend. Read this over several times. Connect it with everything else you have read. Think deeply about its meaning. If it sometimes seems as if much is asked of you, remember a principal point. Everything asked of you is for your good, your true good. Encouragement. Everyone who wants to get out of the jungle will sooner or later reach a certain stage in the journey. By learning about it now, you will be your own guide and own encouragement when reaching it. It is the stage where you can go neither forwards nor backwards. Too clearly do you see the folly of past ways, so you can never go back. At the same time, you have no idea of how to push through the fog towards clear air. This is quite normal. It is a usual stage in the jungle trail which is passed safely by all who escape the jungle. The terrible tension of self-contradiction is left behind at last, releasing natural energies to do constructive work. Along with this comes a new feeling of relaxation, plus a profound understanding. You now see how dark forces tried to make you feel guilty over leaving false doctrines. You see how you were disabled by a fear of leaving the familiar but miserable. And now you are on your way, glad you stuck with it until winning. End of frustration. A mind operating in its own recovered light is amazingly sharp. It sees what ordinary minds only imagine they see. It sees that the clearness of the solution will be to the same degree as the clearness of the problem. Any attempt to find a solution without seeing the problem, the real problem, must fail. The real problem is confused human beings who insist they are clear. Seeking a solution without seeing the problem is like playing a ball game without the ball. Connect these ideas with the next paragraph. No man is really frustrated by what happens to him. Frustration arises from feelings of helplessness, from dimly realizing he is not the conquering hero who can twist results to his liking. So his frustration is simply an exposure of his pretense of having an individual ego which can perform and succeed. With the vanishing of the illusion of an individual self, frustration cannot occur, for then there is no one to oppose whatever happens. This is the state of union with the all. Enduring essence. A scientist was making a series of experiments with vegetable seeds. His aim was to produce larger and tastier harvests. While at work one morning, he became aware of the absence of one of his highly prized seeds. He searched the laboratory thoroughly, but the seed remained mysteriously missing. A few years later, when cleaning his car, he saw a seed in a dark corner under the front seat. He recognized it instantly as the lost seed, for it bore an identification mark. He assumed the seed had somehow been carried to the car in his clothing, after which it had fallen below the seat. When bringing the seed back to the laboratory, the scientist thought of all the places he had driven in his car, thus exposing the seed to sudden changes from heat to cold. He wondered whether the seed still retained its essence of life within. He planted the seed. It proved its endurance and hardiness by energetic growth. No one should feel dismayed if something seems to be missing. It can be found. Enlightened observer. There was once a man who found himself involved in one stormy experience after another. Whatever he touched turned into trouble, including marriage and financial affairs. He lived, of course, in deep distress. He tried to conceal this from others as best he could, for he wanted to be known as a man of poise and confidence. His perplexity was colossal. He could never figure out why people spent most of their time planning ways to persecute him. He growled bitterly, "My intentions are innocent and my manners are cordial, but look how I get kicked around." One day the man was cursing cruel fate when an awakened man observed him. The enlightened man spoke softly to the complainer. "Sir, if you only knew what I know about you, but I can tell you nothing, for you would flare up in hatred. You secretly love the stormy experiences you claim to dislike. That is why you attract them. You are like a man who deliberately crawls into a wolf's den and then screams persecution by the wolves. You would rather feel like a persecuted man than feel nothing. Only when understanding all this will you cease to attract your own misery." Erase wrong beliefs. An Arabian legend tells about a stranger who set out loaves of bread on the northern part of town. Everyone collected the bread while singing the praises of the absent stranger. He was absent because he was busy plundering the southern part of town. Esotericism urges us to not be so distracted by apparent good fortune that we fall victim to our own carelessness. If you want to reach London, forget Paris. If you want to reach a new place in yourself, forget everything unrelated to this aim. Take a look and see what can be done. Maybe you should forget physical action in favour of mental movement. Perhaps you should ignore most of the advice given you by people who want something from you. Maybe you should erase the belief that security resides in social involvement. Take the direct route to yourself. Esoteric education. The capacity for growth into a new kind of person exists within everyone, just as a seed contains everything necessary to create a flower. So begin your esoteric education with light-hearted feelings of liberty. When you were a child in school, you were told what to study and how to proceed. A system of rewards and punishments was employed to keep you attentive. You had to obey or suffer the consequences. But now you are an adult. You are no longer under school rules. Threats of punishment no longer exist. You can study what you like and ignore what you wish. You need fear no one. You need not be terrified of failure. No one can do anything against you. Live according to these facts. Live as if you are out of school. Now you can begin your esoteric education, which is totally different. You graduate every day. Esoteric psychology. Said George, for thousands of years we have had the principles of psychology and philosophy and religion. We're no better off than before. Why? No one wins inner victory by learning the principles of ordinary psychology. A donkey in a library is still a donkey. The accumulation of facts cannot by itself change anything. Only by investigating thoroughly a certain principle of esoteric psychology can a man become a new man. An individual must shockingly see how he lives from imaginary ideas about himself, then give them up. That is the whole story. A man should start with this fundamental plan, after which he can acquire right knowledge for assisting abandonment of his synthetic self. Remember, you want the facts themselves, not the labels which have been pasted on to a particular system of thought. Take the fact that we must listen to truth without the interference of collected opinions. That was a fact long before the labels of psychology and philosophy were invented. Everything changes. As we walk the path, everything changes before our eyes. The facts which we may now take as enemies become our best friends, while the ideas which we now think are good and true will be seen as destructive and false. What we used to assume was a castle becomes a dungeon, while what we called a dungeon becomes our castle. Our values change in a way we cannot imagine. Our world is new because we are new. We then realise that worry is an unnatural state which naturalness conquers. We then understand what it means to be loyal to one's fundamental nature. We then see wonders which have extremely practical benefits. We then know for sure that inner light has total power over all false claims of darkness. Examination of thoughts. A teacher addressed his students. "Did you examine the food you ate today?" "Yes, sir," the students replied. "Did you examine the purchases you made today?" "Yes, sir." "Did you examine the thoughts you thought today?" "No, sir." "Why did you omit the most important examination?" Beginners sometimes wonder why they should bother to examine their thoughts. How strange. No one wonders why he should examine the kind of clothes he wears. We wear heavy or light clothing because our physical self is related to the weather. Wrong clothes makes us hot or cold. We should examine our passing thoughts because they are related to the social climate. Our thinking determines our poise or our nervousness out there. Our thoughts decide how others will treat us, decide our choices, and the pleasant or unpleasant results of those choices. Thought examination expels wrong thoughts, leaving only those which harmonise perfectly with the exterior world. Examples for group discussion. As a class project, have volunteers supply examples related to the following list. For instance, an example of a right attitude is to see an irritable person simply as someone who still suffers from himself. Find examples of a right attitude, correctly used energy, rejecting self-defeating behaviour, overcoming spiritual timidity, seeing a truth for the first time, loyalty to celestial science, getting out of one's own way, independent thinking, dropping the useless for the valuable, flowing with self-harmony, a progressive action, listening with a receptive mind. Excellent request. Pose a conversation with small comments and questions. An excellent opening is to request, please tell us what we need to know. A teacher might well respond with the information contained in the next 3 paragraphs. Learn to follow events. That is what we always do anyway, though few realise it. Just follow whatever happens to you with a wisely watchful mind. Out of this will arise the power to be fully involved with events without feeling threatened by them. When fearing anything, we attribute to it a power which it does not possess in fact. So fear is a wrong move because it is untrue. You need not yield to anything untrue. Just release what is true in you. The rescuing facts are as near as your own mind. Here is one of them. Cease to choose the way you now live, and you cease to suffer from the results of that choice. Discuss with yourself this direct method of self-rescue. Exercise in higher thinking. People want to know what action to take in this or that situation. Esotericism provides the answer. Think of action as doing something totally different with your mind. Regardless of the situation, think of action like that. Do not act from impulsiveness or habit or from a desire to protect your present beliefs. Such actions drain away into nothingness, just as water is absorbed and wasted by a dry desert. To think more clearly, to catch fresh insight, to toss out a self-punishing belief, these are true actions, and they reflect themselves favourably in daily affairs. For a healthy exercise in higher thinking, suspend judgment towards the ways you think. Do not conclude that your present mental movements are necessarily accurate or beneficial. Do not believe that your usual world of thoughts is the only world in existence. This leaves room for something higher than the habitual. That is what you really want, something higher than the habitual. Expert twisters. A village was inhabited by skilled craftsmen who twisted pieces of wire into figures of human beings and animals. Their appreciative customers referred to them as the expert twisters. But the villagers were not happy. Commercial success had contributed nothing towards inner satisfaction, so they called in a teacher of esoteric truth, requesting, "Please give us spiritual food." Knowing exactly what would happen, the teacher gave his first lecture. It happened. The expert twisters distorted everything they heard. Stated the teacher, "The need to dominate others is unhealthy. Someone in the audience called out, "But the world needs strong leaders." The teacher counselled, "Stop living from a surface appearance of goodness." Someone replied, "I can't help it if my neighbour lives like that." The teacher pointed out, "Your commercial habit of wire twisting has crossed over into mind and heart. You expertly twist the truth into whatever you want it to be. See this in yourselves. Come to the next lecture with a sincere wish to no longer twist the truth. Let it be what it is, your deliverance." Explain human nature. How can we find answers to the human dilemma in a minimum of time? Explain human nature and you explain everything. For example, the less a man has changed himself, the more his obsessive urge to change others. This explains the private despair of the public reformer. You said it was necessary to go into action with our acquired knowledge. I'm not sure what this means. Action consists of permitting knowledge to erase a misconception. An example of this is to permit a crisis to reveal that we don't have the inner poise we imagined we had. This is healthy action. Knowledge without right action is like writing a letter but declining to walk out to post it. Our study group is making a special study of esoteric laws. May I hear one of them to take back to the group? An awakened man does not pursue sleeping men, for that is against esoteric law. The unawakened man must pursue the man who knows. His pursuit indicates an admission of need, and that admission is necessary. Explanation of heartache. Admitted Lloyd, "I know there is something wrong when I make stern demands on others, but I don't understand it. I know very well it will cause a quarrel, but I still go ahead. Why?" Think it through. Anyone who believes that others should conform to his personal wishes is saying that his mind alone has a right to exist. Even the simplest logic shows how egotistical and ridiculous this is. Be aware of how this self-centeredness brings self-punishment. This is the first clue for living with your universal mind. The causes and cures of quarrels and heartaches in human relations are not mysteries. We hurt each other because we are afraid. We are afraid because we do not know who we are. We do not know who we are because we have never investigated. Investigate. Exploration of happiness. A small boy was seated on the floor reading a picture book. From time to time, he asked questions of his mother about the book. The mother finally realised that the boy could not clearly see the small details of the pictures. She told him to turn round and face the lamp, explaining, "You're blocking your own light." The next paragraph explains one way in which people block their own light. A person obsessed with the need to be happy will never be so. The obsession is the obstruction. He does not really seek happiness. Rather, he seeks for a condition which matches his personal idea regarding the nature of happiness. But happiness is not a mere idea, for one idea will always have competition from another idea. That is why the unhappy man chases forever from one attraction to another. Happiness will come when he stops chasing. That is, when he stops thinking that an idea about happiness is the same as happiness. A man enjoying the sunshine does so without analysing it. F. Facts and fantasies. The only true friends you have are the facts of life. Fantasies masquerade as friends, but desert you once they have heartlessly used you. Here are a few friendly facts. Never listen to what your surface mind insists is good or bad, but listen only to what your deeper mind knows is good. The only reason you need for seeking truth is because the truth is true. Let something right happen inwardly, and you will have no concern over what happens outwardly. If you want to see through other people, you must first see through yourself. To change yourself, Think of a disturbing circumstance or habit which you accept as necessary, then begin to question its necessity. False personality. A teacher was about to deliver a public lecture. He instructed his disciples, observe the audience carefully. During the question period of the lecture, one man challenged the teacher several times. The man obviously found considerable pleasure in making statements such as, I disagree with what you say, and I think I caught you in a contradiction. After the lecture, the teacher explained to his students, this man is a familiar type of fearful person whom I recognised at once. Feeling threatened by the truth, he tried to protect his ego by disagreeing. The man was saying that his ideas were superior. In fact, he should have been the lecturer. Do you know what was talking? His false personality, not his real nature. As long as he enjoys this false self, he cannot help himself. Fascinating light. Be aware of this. On the everyday level of people and events, there is no such thing as a missed opportunity. No matter what a man thinks about it, the winning of that desired money or that attractive person or that public honour can do absolutely nothing for his true life, so there is nothing to miss. We dimly suspect this, but must admit it into full awareness, which ends the agonising pursuit. What an opportunity we have for becoming transformed men and women. Make up your mind not to miss this pearl of great price. What you are doing all along is to pull aside decorated curtains which you did not see as curtains because of your hypnotic fascination with their fancy designs. But now you've caught a glimpse of light through the small crack in the curtains. This is your new and real fascination. Now, above all else, you want less curtains and more light. Fearlessness. I don't want to be afraid anymore. Who can teach me? You can learn fearlessness only from a man who is not himself afraid. Are there such men? Though few, they exist. How can I find a man immune to fear? By having 10 times the wish to be free of fear than you now have. Otherwise, you'll be deceived by terrified men who pretend to be free. Where can I start doing what is necessary? Question every idea given you since birth. Fear of displeasing people. Many years ago, an explorer in primitive Africa was leading an expedition towards Victoria Falls. All along the way, he was halted by petty tribal chiefs who demanded payment for crossing their territory. The explorer paid them with small items not necessary for the journey, but which the chiefs valued, so the caravan progressed. Similarly, in inner exploration, payment guarantees progress. Payment consists of giving up anything misleading and useless. When hearing about this principle, Lawrence gave it careful thought. Looking inwards, he tried to find something to give up. He found something, the fear of displeasing people. I never realised, he commented, how anxious I was to gain and keep the approval of others. That is one slavery I will give up. Find your own ways to make payment, to give something up. Dare to give up self-concern. Be eager to abandon misleading thoughts. This will leave you in a different place than you were before. Feelings of futility. Have you ever wondered what to do when life seems pointless? Read the next paragraph with a mind that wants to know. A feeling of futility is trying to tell you something of great importance. Listen to it. Do not be afraid to listen to its entire story, for only good can come from your attention. A feeling of futility serves the same purpose as feeling chilly on a cold day. Feeling chilly is not a scolding or a condemnation. It has no wish to make you miserable. It is simply nature's helpful way of saying that something must be changed. That is all. A feeling of emptiness and purposelessness can be wisely used to change the way we meet life, just as we change clothing to meet changing weather. So see moods of depression and aimlessness like this. That begins to change your psychological clothing, which keeps you comfortable in all kinds of conditions. Feelings of shame. Whoever has turned on his original light has transcended a sense of shame, regardless of wrong behaviour in the past. Shame is a part of egotism, for it maintains one's illusion of having an individualistic self apart from the whole. Perhaps you know people who love to boast about past or present wickedness while pretending to be sorry. The last thing the ego will do is give up shame, for it uses shame to perpetuate its tyranny over the person. People would rather feel ashamed than feel nothing, for a lack of fiery emotions seems like a fearful void to those who misunderstand. Now, to understand the nature of wrong behaviour is quite another response. To do this is to see it without the interference of the false self. Therefore, egotism's grip is weakened. This is the beginning of good behaviour and of true conscience. Find yourself. All the great religions and philosophies teach in their own words. To lose your life is to find it. The meaning of this becomes increasingly clear to the student of esotericism. In summary, we must lose what we falsely believe is our life in favour of a wholeness which never needs to prove itself. Ask Donald, how can I find myself? Get yourself out of your own life, which means to detect and abandon the imaginary self-pictures by which most men live. Then you will be in your own life for the first time. Michelangelo practiced a certain technique while painting. When working in dim light, he placed his candle inside a cup. This prevented his own shadow from interfering with his work. All of us somehow sense that all would be well if we could just get out of our own way. Think often about the meaning of this. First successes. Our early successes consist largely of faint hints of another world. An alert and receptive mind, determined to throw off the wrappings of life, senses this new universe. If reading man's problem is his meandering mind, there is something within which feels the fact of that statement. Already the light has brightened. You then read, but any mind weary of wandering in the wilderness can return home. That also produces a response, different and rightly encouraging. At this very moment, you are closer to these heavenly hints than you think. They are as close as your own eagerness to make contact. You are perfectly capable of contacting everything needed for spontaneous hours. Let yourself make contact. Do this by letting your mind run towards necessities, not towards demands. Just catch your first glimpse. That is enough. Nothing will ever persuade you to go back to the old ways. 5 lessons. After observing his students for several days, a teacher gave 5 of them the lesson each needed the most. You must get over your terror of the truth. That is like a prisoner who fears the key to his cell. I want you to see that you can please your true nature, or you can please your negative characteristics, but you can't please both. You need more diligence, so take a lesson which does not make sense and study until it does. I wish you to remember one fact for the rest of the day. You are the slave of those from whom you seek approval. You must see that the battle is not against people and conditions, but against the wrong use of your mind. Flow of life. Suddenly ask a man, what do you value? Watch his puzzled face. For a split second he will not know what to reply. Then, as memory and conditioning rush up, he will tell you. He may say, I value a worthwhile life, or I value exciting days. He may not really mean what he says, for human beings tend to say whatever sounds the most impressive. But one thing is certain. The values arising from his acquired notions will be valueless, worthless to the man himself, though he may not see it. Why? Because memorized values must always clash with the new and natural and changing flow of life. The man who values fame will be anxious if it fails to arrive, or if it comes and departs. The woman who insists upon physical attractiveness will be sorrowful when it is not present. Seeing through false values is both an interesting and profitable occupation for those who want to escape from them. Focus on reality. Suppose you're standing on a high hill with a friend. Below you is a small village with attractive homes and colourful fields. While looking through binoculars, your friend says he can see his home quite clearly. You ask to have a look, so he hands over the binoculars with the instructions to aim towards the centre of town. Peering into the binoculars, you see nothing but a blur. You realise what has happened. When taking the binoculars, your fingers touched the focusing wheel, turning it away from the right position. When corrected, the binoculars reveal the home below. We are out of focus with reality, which explains the blurs in our days. That is the explanation of human distress offered by every teacher of all ages and lands. We possess the talent for correcting whatever prevents a clear view of ourselves and our actions. That is the encouraging solution offered by those who know. Forgiveness. Confessed Gordon, I feel I may be unforgiven for past cruelties and neglects. Please help me. Do not think about forgiveness from man-made ideas about it. They consist of assorted illusions, including self-serving sentimentality. Think from esoteric teachings. Start with the idea of self-forgiveness. This occurs each time conscious behaviour replaces mechanical and memorised behaviour. To say the same thing another way, forgiveness occurs by dropping the past to live only in the present moment. The eternal now has no past, therefore no guilt, therefore no need to even think about forgiveness. What about forgiveness from those I have harmed? Anyone you have offended who has found the light will understand all you have just heard, so he forgives you as he has forgiven himself. Those still in darkness, the majority of people, have no understanding of real forgiveness, so you can forget them. Truth has provided total forgiveness. Fortunate position. When anguish becomes unbearable, you're in a fortunate position. Do not miss your good fortune. Do not try to escape the pain by emotional storms or by pleasant daydreams or by any other distraction. Stick with the pain. Do not run away. Don't you see why? Follow closely. You cannot run away from suffering because there is no self which is apart from suffering. You are the anguish itself. You and anguish are the same thing. You cannot run away from pain because there is no division between you and pain. You see the impossibility of trying to run away from your own body, so you do not try. With equal clearness, see the impossibility of running away from distress. Once we see the impossibility of running away from anguish, a remarkable change takes place. So see just this much, after which a new self-clarity takes over to end distress. 4 answers. Mr. and Mrs. K collected 4 written questions from the group, then read them aloud for the teacher to answer. 1. How can we know whether we're living from the truth instead of just talking about it? You live the truth when you see no difference between having a truth discussion with others and taking a pleasant stroll by yourself. 2. Why do we pursue the bad, even while sensing its harm? because there remains parts of us which are still under the illusion that the bad is the good. 3. Why does self-facing cause discomfort? As a general statement, we can say that it is the truth that hurts, but more exactly, it is our resistance to the truth that hurts. 4. What is an example of how we block our own liberty? The faster a man nervously defends his wrong positions, the slower will he find the hill which is above all nervously defended positions. Fresh health. Every person feels the truth of the counsel. The most sensible act you can perform in your life is to escape your own inner trap. Many questions asked in classes indicate a growing awareness of this. Walter said during an open discussion, "You say that the understanding of emotional suffering ends it. What prevents understanding?" Suffering itself. Look deeply into the nature of suffering and you will see dozens of wrong moves. Suffering makes a person the centre of attention, including his own. It gives him a chance for public and private dramatics. He loves the false feeling of life supplied by anguish. Suffering is loaded with dangerous egotism, so neither glorify it or be sentimental towards it. As insight grows, a sufferer sees all this and wants nothing more to do with it. Fresh health replaces suffering. From another world. An American farmer was walking through his fields one day when he sighted a rock lying beneath a cornstalk. The rock held his attention, for not only did it have an unusual appearance, but it seemed out of place in the cornfield. The farmer carried it home, studied it curiously, and finally set it in the front yard as a stepping stone. One day the farmer has a visitor who was an amateur astronomer. The rock was equally attractive to the visitor, who examined it closely. It turned out to be a meteorite, a unique rock from another world. We must recognise the existence within us of psychic powers from another world. Our recognition is our transformation. Fundamental man. We must see the difference between self-transformation and what is popularly called self-improvement. Everyone wants self-improvement, but only the daring and the wise seek self-transformation. Self-improvement makes elementary changes. One can improve his memory or lose excess weight or learn a new skill for earning a living. Some of these are useful for daily affairs, but none can bestow self-command in a riotous world. In other words, the fundamental man does not change. The fundamental man, attention to that essential feature, begins the process of self-transformation. So what must be done to activate this cosmic creativity? A man must study his daily ways to see just how he is acting against his own ease and naturalness, to see where he has permitted confused thoughts to take the place of the clear thoughts possessed by his cosmic mind. This daily alertness changes the fundamental man, just as a motorist changes directions when noticing he's on the wrong road. When on the right road, we feel right. Fundamental rule. Requested Harry, may we review an elementary question? How can a person change himself? Remember the fundamental rule. No man ever changes his behaviour until clearly seeing self-defeating behaviour as self-defeating. He must observe how he really feels at the time he says or does something against his own nature. Equally important, he must not mistake the ego thrill of wrong behaviour for happiness. It may take many shocks and frustrations and a powerful pressure of pain before a man lets go of his pretense and his resistance to truth. He will let go fearfully at first, for he knows not what will become of what he calls his self. But he is breaking out of prison, no longer giving value to mere emotional excitement. he sees how he has been defeating himself. This is the first glimpse of a changed nature. G. Genuine help. In human beings, there is a gulf a mile wide between there is something wrong with me and, well, I'd better change myself. The difference between the usual person and the extraordinary individual is that the latter sets about systematically and with endless energy to navigate the gulf. The others stand tearfully on the bank and complain that no one builds them a bridge. The facts of life cannot be perceived by anyone who needs to have others on his side when seeing whatever he sees. Only by standing alone can he stand within the undivided universe which knows and explains the facts of life. Anyone travelling the right road will have genuine help all along the way. His own secret forces will always be wherever he is to guide and encourage. When confused by something, he can assure himself, by working patiently with this to the very end, I will have psychic gold I never had before. Gigantic conspiracy. Wayne told a group during an open discussion, a man has no idea of what he wants and then spends a lifetime trying to get it. That is my own biography up to now. What is wrong with us? Elaine responded, mankind has entered into a gigantic conspiracy to keep everyone hypnotised. Look at the vacant faces you pass on the street and you will know how well the conspiracy has succeeded. We want to escape from it. Insisted a visitor, but surely things will improve with time and better organisation. I don't understand your negative attitudes towards the human problem. Lou spoke up. It is not negative to face the fact that everything man has tried up to now has failed. It is negative to refuse to see the obvious. The quality of human life cannot be raised by the minds which have made it what it is. Destruction cannot be constructive. But human destruction always calls itself constructive, so the level remains the same. As Elaine said, we are here to end self-hypnosis. Glimpse of reality. At the start, we seek to set artificial personality aside long enough to let the real man appear, even for an instant. This glimpse reveals the difference between the troublesome artificial and the rescuing real. A student in Oregon suffered from compulsive goodness. She described her condition as forever doing exactly what I did not want to do, with silent resentment. She was urged to thoroughly examine her motives for being so generous with her time and money. Doing so, she reported, I behaved generously because of a craving for applause from others, but this kind of generosity contains no real goodness because it secretly demands a reward. I sense where I'm going wrong. I walk around with a mere self-picture of being a good person and so demand that others confirm it through appreciation of me. But being only an image, an illusion, it is ridiculous to try to confirm it. I need only abandon the image in favour of my real nature. I now glimpse the difference between artificial personality with all its wars and my really good, true self. God, said Audrey one evening, these classes are fascinating, but how does God enter into everything? To answer that, you must tell me what you mean by God. Everyone has a different idea as to the nature of God, but an idea about God cannot be God. This is why we have thousands of conflicting gods and religions on earth. These gods are merely projections of personal desires and fears. God has nothing to do with such division. Audrey nodded. Just that much is already helpful. Clearness comes by realising God as the whole, the all. The mechanical part of the mind cannot know this allness because it demands to be its own petty God, which fights cruelly with other petty gods. A whole mind knows God because it is one with itself. Good and evil. Ruth wanted to know, Is man basically evil or is he good? You will grasp this better with another approach. See man as captured. This is why esoteric illustrations tell about men who escape prison or who find their way out of a cave of robbers. But by what is man captured? Only by his own illusions of being in captivity. In reality, he is free now and forever, but insight of this must come to him. So evil is the behaviour of an unconscious person, like a man having a nightmare who kicks out furiously. He is cruel because he is afraid. His injury of others is the painful explosion of self-injury. By seeing all this, he escapes his own captivity. Then, authentic goodness is his total nature. Good cheer. There is cause for good cheer. Through right action, the mind can set itself free. Right action consists of starting with part of the mind to enter the whole mind. The whole mind is freedom itself. Man's mistake is in believing that the part of the mind he now employs is the whole mind, which is like taking Denmark as the only nation on earth. Taking the part as the whole. That is the rock in the road to be avoided. Memory is a good example of this mistake. Memory alone cannot bring freedom. Also, misused memory leads us astray. We see this in people whose memories have been crammed with ideas about the nature of God. So all their lives they worship a cluster of memories they call God. God does not consist of memorized ideas. God is not the past and the part. God is the present and the whole. So be of good cheer, for memory can start right action as soon as it receives self-explaining knowledge. Good news. Everything about the esoteric path is good news. Keep this thought in front of you at all times, but especially when feeling uncertain about a received idea or course of action. Many times in our early days, we encounter ideas which seem foreign to us. In fact, the ideas are not at all foreign to our real nature, but because of our wanderings in strange lands, it appears that way. So regardless of first impressions, good news is the only kind of news we ever receive. Suppose a man is told he must stop jumping into one excitement after another. He may assume that this is bad news, for he uses emotional and social excitement as distractions from his anxiety. But it is wonderful news, for it is a first clue towards the healing of his anxiety. So whatever news comes your way, read it carefully until seeing the brightness which is always there. Good start. You can start on the path exactly where you are right now. There is no other place to start anyway. Your present inner and outer circumstances, no matter how dark, are unimportant. At the start, you are required only to start. The beginning might consist of an earnest questioning of your life as it now unfolds. It could be wonderment over an inspiring idea you read in a book. It might be a persistent urge to become another kind of person. Progress can be compared with a path having a series of gates along the way. You go somewhere by passing through something. So whatever you meet is exactly what is good and necessary for your progress. So welcome every experience, regardless of how mystifying or annoying it may appear to be. Simply start. Take any forward step. Now take the next step, whatever it may be. Proceed one step at a time every day. That is truly noble action. Grapevine. An orchardist noticed that a certain grapevine failed to produce much fruit. He had almost decided to waste no more water on it when the vine spoke up. "Please," it appealed, "it is not my fault if I fail to supply an abundance of grapes. It is the fault of my surroundings. I will do just fine if you give me a shield from the hot sun." A shield was placed over the vine, but it did no better than before. Over the weeks, the grapevine pleaded for other changes in its environment. It requested the removal of some nearby rocks and asked to be surrounded by flowers. Its requests were granted, but it failed to keep its promise to bear more grapes. The orchardist finally woke up. He told the vine, "It is not your surroundings which is wrong. It is your own nature. You're like some people I know. They never see that a change in environment is not a change in nature." Greater power. An individual can go as far as he wishes. How can he generate power for advanced adventures? He can want to tell the truth to himself, see through myth parading as fact, not love to feel angry and indignant, be tired of playing games, guard against automatic assumptions, not accept the false comfort of conformity, know how little he knows, not live within a small corner of himself, question his cherished values, sense something wrong with noisy places, learn rightness by observing wrongness, see how he stands in his own way, seek the meaning of psychic maturity, wish to be at home with himself. Grief. We are in a terrible predicament. At the same time as we cling to people, we feel ourselves under their power to threaten our security. You should be grateful to people who threaten what you call your security. They are teaching you an essential lesson. Be aware that any security which can be threatened is no security at all. What about those who insist we should see only the good in people? That is just another attempt to rearrange reality to fit one's flattering ideas of self-goodness. Good can come, but only by understanding the nature of the bad. Evasion prevents this insight. You tell us to study how we attract our own grief. Some people find this hard to accept. Look at Tom, who gets hurt by Bill. You feel sorry for Tom, but do you ever ask why he associated with Bill in the first place? Group procedures. Members of a study group should take every opportunity for helping each other. The light one holds out for another is the same light guiding oneself. One method is for a member to explain a particular idea to the others. He could start, "I would like to explain to you the importance of sticking to the point of self-awakening." He then discusses the idea for a minute or two. He should speak simply, explaining the ideas as clearly as possible. A second method is for the leader to request answers to his question. The leader might ask, "Why is direct and personal contact with the truth essential?" Someone might reply, "Because it is the only way to reach the harbour. The wise voyager takes directions from the sun itself, while the unwise man listens to what others tell him about the sun." Participants should feel no embarrassment at mistakes or hesitations when contributing their bit. Even a little extra light pushes back the surrounding darkness. That is what it is all about. Group progress. 5 members of a study group reported lessons they had learned over the months. Lee, one of your freedoms is to have no need to explain yourself to others. This is the reward for having first explained yourself to yourself. Ellen, no man can demand the right to mess up his own life and then demand the opposite right, that other people should repair the damage. James, esoteric education is totally different from any other kind of schooling. For example, the moment I see I am wrong, I am right. Lucille, there is a great difference between hearing a truth and being healed by what we hear, depending on whether we open an ear or open the spirit. Hugh, persistence in search of the truth must be accompanied by a willingness to live what we have learned. A pianist is not judged by how long he plays, but how well he performs. Guideposts. Let the guideposts of the following paragraph aid you and those with whom you share the journey. A person seeking help usually makes dozens of blunders at the start. Having little discernment, He rushes from one useless teacher to another. He is like an ill person who cannot see the emptiness of all the medicine bottles offered him. Nevertheless, he is taking right and necessary action, for he must actively seek a true source of help. Success depends upon his courage to refuse comfort or excitement in favour of trueness. He must not let his desire for security judge the accuracy of an offered teaching. He must increasingly permit his own intelligence to judge between accuracy and error. It is by this method that aimless thrashing finally moves in one creative direction. Gullibility. See the difference between knowledge and assumption. Because of emotional tension, this is not so easy to do at first. A woman who loses the man in her life may assume she knows the answer to her loneliness, another man. That is simply an assumption based on her anxious desire to escape loneliness. Since it is an assumption and not a known fact, she suffers from its false hope. Also, it may lead her straight into an unhappy relationship with another man. Self-damaging assumptions can exist only when we fail to meet a challenging condition with a whole mind. An assumption fails to see the whole picture. For instance, it does not see the vast difference between a person's public appearance and his actual inner condition. So assumptions produce gullibility and regret, but a whole mind assumes nothing. Having no anxiety, it does not see the world through rose-coloured glasses. It sees things as they are, which is its ease and protection. H. Happiness. To sow the same seeds is to reap the same weeds. Even this simple law of nature is overlooked by those who ache over a habitually hopeless harvest. To gain something different, we must do something different. How easy is it to criticise whatever goes contrary to our present beliefs rather than an attempt to understand? How shallow it is to speak the word love and not realise that the word is not the virtue. Do what you should do instead of what you want to do. At first, it arouses resistance, but the time will come when what you should do and want to do are the same thing. That stage is known as happiness. Perhaps you would like to know how the truth makes you a different kind of person. With a mixture of wonder and appreciation, you will see the difference in yourself for yourself. Here is one way in which you'll be different. You will have the casualness of a person who has nothing to prove. Healing truth. How can I be different? Be the way you are. I don't understand. You must always be the way you are because there is nothing else. Pretending to be different will chain but not change you. A sheep who imagines he is a lion is still a sheep. But how do I change? By being what I am. By seeing what you are. See the difference between your real nature and your dozens of stage roles. When realising the price you pay to be on stage, the roles fall away of themselves. I see. Awareness of what I am changes what I am, but I fear such self-honesty will hurt. The truth that hurts is the same truth that heals. Remember that. Healthy desires. There are harmful desires and there are healthy desires. It is healthful to desire more light, to live your own life, courage for self-facing, authentic assistance, freedom from raging thoughts, days without nightmares, casualness, non-interference from others, to end self-doubt, silent power, more natural strength, something truly different. All these can be won. Nothing stands in the way of attainment except an insistence upon clinging to the old ways. Healthy viewpoint. I want to change myself and my life. Beneath their hourly activities, most people exclaim that. People are dissatisfied, doubtful, lonely. Unfortunately, most of them choose changes which change nothing. If you deeply wish to change your life, let the following thoughts serve as accurate guides. Constantly examine the viewpoint from which you see life. Society calls a man wealthy or successful or important. That is society's viewpoint. Truth has no such viewpoint. It sees the man as he really lives in his private mind. Truth sees him as a frightened human being whose fame and fortune do nothing to relieve his dreadful bewilderment and boredom. But truth also sees him as someone capable of changing himself if he adopts the cosmic viewpoint. Never forget the existence of a viewpoint which sees things as they are. See life and see yourself from this healthy viewpoint. Helplessness. Do you ever feel helpless? Have you ever tried living with feelings of helplessness just to see what happens? Try it. Simply live alertly with feelings of helplessness without doing a single thing about them. Do not try to be strong. Do not resist or resent the condition. Do not seek relief from tension by asking advice from others, for they feel equally helpless. Do this. A personal miracle will happen. By living fully with feelings of helplessness, you destroy a trick that was being played on you. When you are totally helpless and see this as a plain fact, the terror vanishes. Feeling helpless disappears because you now see that your real nature was never in danger and therefore needed no help at all. God does not need help. It was the imaginary self which felt threatened and which therefore cried for help. But seeing the non-existence of the false self ended the need for help. You do not need to save a non-existent person. Hidden hostility. During a casual group discussion, Michael admitted, "For many years you could not have talked to me about these ideas. The wall between my mind and reality was a yard thick. I had superbly deceived myself into believing that I already knew all the answers and was therefore a normal and highly intelligent human being. I will tell you one area where any attempt to help me would have aroused an emotional beehive. Had you ever told me I was hiding a lot of fierce hostility, it would have made me hostile." The others smiled in understanding. Michael continued, "Now I know why. My hostility was a fact, but a fact unacceptable to my precious and deceptive self-images of being a peaceful person. How clear it all becomes after a while. Anger is a sure sign we are hiding something. Also, I saw something else. Anger and fear go together. I was hostile because I feared the exposure of my pretenses. This class helped me to see that exposure of pretense is not something to fear, but a sensible and effective medicine." Higher knowledge. You're about to receive higher knowledge about human affairs. Review it often. As strange as it sounds at first, an individual never causes anything to happen. Everything happens by the flow of cosmic action. While this cosmic action exists within each person, it does not belong to him personally. Therefore, he is not the originator. Mr. A does not really cause anything to happen to Mr. B and Mr. C. None of them possesses an independent I capable of personal action. All action between them is simply universal cosmic action. Suppose the parts of an automobile were given human names, with a wheel called Tom and the battery called Sally. Wrong thinkers would credit the fictitious Tom and Sally with individual power, but reality sees things as they are. It sees total and cooperative action between the nameless parts. Were label-loving human beings able to see things as clearly as reality, human life would be different. Higher logic. Nothing good can be expected from a world which lives from external appearances, and that is the kind of world you inhabit. You must seek a logic much higher than that employed by shallow society. For example, an economic solution is offered for an economic problem. Both the problem and the solution are a part of human illogic, so nothing good can result. It is like trying to cure a sick man by bringing another sick man into the room. Only higher logic can change anything. Remember, this is personal and private work. So regardless of what other people do, always aim to think in a higher way than you find yourself thinking. Why are we doing all this? Because this is the way to make life make sense. At last, life makes sense. Higher place. Misconceptions supply the illusion of travel. That is, they seem to take us somewhere. But we always find ourselves right back where we started, discouraged at the bursting of another beautiful dream. We feel lost, betrayed. But esoteric ideas are not like that. They always leave us in a higher place. There is a sure method by which anyone can begin to solve the mysteries of life. He can see and bravely face whatever does not explain his personal dilemma. He might see at last that so-called experts and authorities conceal as many doubts as he does. Or he might realise that his usual mental movements always end up quarrelling with each other. He is now seeing the futile as futile. This lightens his load, providing a surer forward step. It can be done. The land you have not entered as yet has been entered and conquered by others. Home at last. Whoever has no idea as to how other people should treat him is someone who has found the secret of life. Should includes demands destructive to both the demander and the object of his clamorous claims. The very demand is the damage to the demander. A man living from should still believes he possesses a personal and separate world which others should confirm and praise. The constant refusal of reality to accept his illusion is his angry agony. When two such men meet, a collision is inevitable. This happens millions of times a minute to the people on earth. Now you know why you read tragic headlines every day. Freedom from should attracts unlimited psychic riches. One of them is the absence of tension. Tension exists when the imaginary self tries vainly to prove its existence by striving for something, whether wealth or sexual conquest or anything else. When true being replaces the imaginary self, striving ceases. We then feel we have arrived home at last, after a long journey. Homing instinct. Said a seeker to a teacher, "You say man is hypnotised, which accounts for all his ordeals. You also say that right self-work can awaken him out of his difficulties. Is there proof of this?" "You are the proof." "In what way?" "You have ordeals." "Yes, but that's only half of it." "What about evidence for self-awakening?" "You are the proof." "I fail to grasp your meaning." "You would not have come here unless a small part of you suspected the existence of another mental state. Call it a homing instinct, like that of a pigeon. This does not necessarily mean you want the answer. Multitudes of others have the same sensing but do nothing about it. What will you do? Honest confusion. A famous man was once interviewed by a reporter. The man admitted, "My thoughts are like odd characters in a fairy tale who've suddenly come to life in my mind. I have no idea of where they come from or what to do with them. I confess to a confused mind." Any worthwhile teaching assists seekers to understand and abolish mental confusion. Seekers must do their part by honestly acknowledging their bewilderment. Admission of confusion is powerful medicine, for it combats those unconscious attitudes which pretend to know the answers. Unconscious bluffing is an ally of confusion. Honest confusion is like a disabled boat flying a distress flag. It attracts assistance. So think of a present confusion you may have. That can be ended. It makes no difference whether you believe it or not. What makes the difference in your favour is a willingness to let these teachings come to the rescue.